So hopefully this is a very fulfilling and informative session that just showcases the greatness of our peer network system, and you guys can make an informed decision on if this is something that you would like to be a part of. And if you're anything like me, you're chomping at the bit to learn more so that you can be all that you can be in the army of Together SC. All right, so I'm going to share my screen for real this time. Lovely. And let's present. All right, so good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for our amazing kickoff. This is the first time we're doing something of this magnitude for those who are interested in leadership team service, and we are really excited that you are even interested in helping to make Together SC's peer network system even more amazing than it already is. So I am Heather Singleton, and I have the privilege of serving as the inaugural peer network manager. This is a brand new role here at Together SC, and the purpose of this role is to really maximize on the peer network systems. We've got an amazing group of folks who are just working really hard as co-chairs, and then we have our staff who also supports, and you'll find out more about that structure later. But I am, as Karen calls me, the quarterback. And I am an Eagles fan. So as such, I am happy with being my own version of Jalen Hurts. So I get the privilege of helping to make sure that you guys have an amazing experience as peer network participants, and also to help create some uniformity so that all of our peer networks can shine and be as amazing as we've anticipated them being. A couple of housekeeping questions or responses. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to use the chat. Heidi, our learning and events manager, is going to moderate that chat for us, and that's going to serve as our parking lot. So if you have any burning questions that I have not gotten to by the end of this, we will have a Q&A session, and you can ask it then, or you can enter it into the chat. But welcome all. Now, this is an icebreaker. What is your fiscal New Year resolution? Now, I am one of those folks who is very excited for June 30, and then July 1 roll over, because it's a fresh start for those of us who are on the fiscal year calendar. So in the chat, or you can actually, yeah, in the chat, let's hear it. What is your fiscal New Year resolution? For me, my fiscal New Year resolution is to actually stand on the professional boundaries that I set. I think that, making sure that I turn my cell phone off at 6 p.m. so that I don't get work calls, and actually not working on weekends or when I'm on PTO. Those are things that I am committing to this year. So Heidi, if you could unmute, if you see anybody who's got something really cool that they are resulting in for the fiscal new year, please feel free.
Tori says, sell out our 2026 summit tickets.
Yeah.
More of a goal than a resolution, I suppose. But alas, she says.
What else?
Saying no more often. Good job, Samuel.
Yes, saying no more often. No is a complete sentence. So I think that knowing that there's power in your no will help you to go leaps and bounds in this upcoming fiscal year.
Kalia said the same thing. I learned how to say no with so much love and respect. I don't need to be involved in literally everything. You got it, girl.
Yes. I think
And
that,
Karen, I think that's pretty much something we probably all could say.
yeah.
Quality over quantity. Alex.
Okay.
Andrew says, empowering our staff to take on more, handle more things independently. That's a good one.
Oh, wow. Taking the training wheels off.
Taking risks, more self-care. That's
Yeah,
something we should all do.
yeah,
Maurice says, holding my board more accountable. That's a good one.
that is a good one
Empowering staff and accountability seems to be something that a lot of us are doing.
for sure. Awesome. Well, guys, please feel free again to use that chat as we need to. We're going to go ahead and proceed with some of the programming for this morning. So here's a glance at today's agenda. First, we're going to dive into what our peer networks are. This is going to be a very high level overview of what the networks are and what you can expect as an actual peer network member. And then we're going to dive into the actual leadership team and what those roles and responsibilities look like. And then we'll talk about what comes next after this. So this is an informative session, and you can make, again, that informed decision on if the leadership team role is for you. Let's dive in. So, what are our peer networks? If you've been living under a rock, this is kind of our explanation of what we see peer networks as. Together SC's communities that are centered around workplace affinities. This includes being of the same race, like Black nonprofit leaders, or being of the same type of work, like Volunteer Admin Alliance, or CEO and Executive Director Peer Network. Providing professional development programming, social convenings, and an avenue for all nonprofit associates to connect statewide. We are not in a silo. And I think that we are finally breaking down the walls of just being so alone in this work. There is such power in numbers and in us having this peer-to-peer connection. And that's what the peer networks are here to support. Peer networks are also a great entry point into engagement and leadership with Together SC. Those who are, a lot of folks who have currently served on our board or may have served on the board in the past have been initially peer network leadership team members. And that showcases the depth of your leadership and your commitment to Together SC as a whole. So we have 8 unique networks to inspire and engage everyone. We've got Advocacy Allies, Black nonprofit leaders, Consultant Collaborative, Development, Marketing, Operations, and our Volunteer Administrator Alliance. Now, this is my shameless plug. So if you are a part of one of these peer networks, but you also find yourself aligning with another peer network, you can join multiple networks. So I am a part of Black nonprofit leaders and Consultant Collaborative and Development and Marketing and the Volunteer Admin Alliance just because of the work that I do. So you will get a more well-rounded experience when you find yourself diving into these networks. And you're going to hear a little bit more about the importance of that in your leadership walk momentarily. They fit with the overall grand scheme of Together SC and who we are and what we hope to provide for our members. The networks help to keep a pulse on our members' needs, and they keep us stronger together. If you came to the summit this year, you know that our theme was woven together, and this is so important and so evident through the peer network system. When our peers do well, we do well. It's a great entry point to engagement and leadership with Together SC. I cannot stress that enough. It's a way for you to get eyes on you. It's a way for you to get to know your peers across the state and people who are doing the same or similar work as you are. It helps to support our overarching goals of advocating, convening, and partnering with our membership. And then our peer networks build intentional relationships for true peer-to-peer support. I can honestly say that some of the greatest people that I've met have been people who are a part of the same peer networks that I've been a part of. And it's been a wonderful time to just learn more about what other organizations are doing across our state and to get more knowledge and to really just build really amazing relationships and friendships. so you can find your place in our networks. Again, we've got 8 unique networks. And as a network participant, there's no limit to what that participation looks like. Now, that does not go on to say that there is no limit to our leadership team networks. We do ask that leadership team members only serve on one team, but you can be a member of multiple networks. So keep that in mind as we progress throughout this conversation. And then if you guys have any questions about finding your place, how to get connected more, please feel free to reach out to us. So now I'm going to turn it over to Maurice Lawyer. He's with the Legacy Foundation of South Carolina in the great big old city of Jasper. And he is the Black Nonprofit Leaders Peer Network co-chair. Maurice has a very unique story as one of the charter members of the Black Nonprofit Leaders Group and has worked his way up to being the co-chair along with Tramice Carter with Central Carolina Community Foundation. So I'm going to turn it over to Maurice. He's going to share his experience and hopefully you guys can be inspired.
Let me come off of mute. Good morning. Good morning. Wow. Thank you, Heather, for the introduction and the opportunity to talk about my journey as a nonprofit leader and a member of the Black Nonprofit Leaders Group. I am probably not as well versed in the sector as a lot of you, but I am learning along the way, and it's been truly, truly a privilege. I started in the nonprofit sector back in 2008 after losing my mom to a drunk driver accident. My family went through a lot. During that time, my grandparents and my mom were in the car on the way to church, and a drunk driver hit their car as they were getting out of the car to go to church revival. We lost my grandfather that night and my mom 7 days later. My grandmother was the only one that actually survived that accident, and we recently lost her 2 years ago, but to, being old, being elderly and other sicknesses. But my mother was heavily involved in schools and PTA. My dad was a football coach for over 30 years with the Little League. So as we went through our mourning process and tried to find a new way forward, I moved home with my dad, and we just started talking about how can we carry on her legacy and how can we continue to impact the lives of children in our community. We come from a very rural area in Jasper County, which is right outside of Hilton Head and Beaufort. So we have like this amazing dynamic where we live around some really affluent areas, but then we are also in this little pocket. And a lot of our students don't get the opportunity to be introduced to other opportunities outside of Jasper. So we started thinking about how can we impact the students. And we started the Legacy Foundation in honor of my mom and some other family members that were heavily involved in the school system. And our original idea was to just take kids on field trips, fundraise, take kids on field trips, have, community activities, things of that nature. But then COVID hit in 2018-19, and we weren't able to do the field trips. From 2008 to 2019, we were just kind of thinking about what to do and learning how to build a nonprofit. And when we started to do the field trips, COVID hit, we couldn't do the field trips. So we started reaching out to the community because at that time we had started fundraising. We started doing community activities. We didn't know anything about grants. We didn't know anything about development and things of that nature. So we started asking the community, how could we serve? What do you need? How can we be of help to you? And so they found that our students were having experienced academic loss because they weren't actually in regular school settings. So we came up with the idea to do virtual tutoring. Then we went from virtual tutoring to the hybrid model to now in-person tutoring. And along the way, I learned about Together SC. I learned about Coastal Community Foundation. And I started taking workshops. I started attending seminars. I started coming to the Together SC Summit. And that's when I met Nicole Eccles and found out about Black Nonprofit Leaders. I joined the I think it was like a breakout session at that time. I joined the breakout session and I started learning all of these things about grant writing, about becoming fundable, about telling your story, about making sure that your narrative aligns with your work, that you don't have mission drift. All these things I learned along the way because of Together SC. And so I just showed up every day. You know, I showed up at every meeting, every workshop that I could, every virtual session that I could, and I began to learn. And it was because of my peers, like then Tremise came along and meeting so many other people. And I got the opportunity to become a part of the Black Nonprofit Leaders Group. And then by me just showing up and doing the work, I've now built with my dad a young, thriving foundation here in Jasper. We are serving kids in our community through after school support and out of school support. So we provide academic support to the community centers, Boys and Girls Club, where the children are. We recruit teachers. We pay them based on the fundraising that we do to show up in those spaces and actually provide the support to students. And now we're also building a social emotional component to go along with that. I know said a lot, but it's been a journey. And along that way, the members of Together SC saw something in me and asked me to be a part of the leadership group. And I'm now a co-chair of the Black Nonprofit Leaders. So it's been 6 years since the Black Nonprofit Leaders started. And I started at the very beginning, and now I've, made my way to the co-chair position. So thank you, Together SC. Thank you to my peers. Thank you to this amazing community of people. And Darren, of course, has been amazing in supporting me along the way as well. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thanks, Maurice. That was an awesome, awesome story. And thank you so much for sharing your insight. I feel like the networks are really how you stay connected to Together SC. And I may be biased as the peer network manager, but I learned about Together SC when I worked for someone else, and I worked for the United Way system. And it's because of the impact of the peer networks that I can even say I am a better person as a nonprofit leader. So let's talk about these leadership teams. Representation matters. It literally matters. So we want our leadership teams to look and emulate the people who we're serving. South Carolina is a beautiful, beautiful state. And we've got some amazing nonprofits, and we want to make sure that their voices are heard and that they have advocacy at the table. So representation looks like race, gender, geography, and then also area of expertise and years of nonprofit service. There are folks who have a wealth of knowledge who've been in this work for 20 years, 15 years, and they want to serve in a deeper way. And so this is an awesome opportunity for them. There are people who've been serving in nonprofits for less than 3 years, and they have a wealth of knowledge. And they have a very unique perspective on the ways that we have done things in the past. So every voice and every lived experience matters in this. And we also want to make sure that we are geographically represented. I like to call our hot spots the big three, and that's Greenville, Columbia, and Charleston. But if you know anything about South Carolina's nonprofits, a lot of that work happens in the rural areas, and the rural areas need that capacity building support. So we want our leadership teams to really emulate what it is that makes us so special as peer networks. Each leadership team has 2 co-chairs, and the idea is that we will stagger the terms so that we can support some succession planning. That is an area of opportunity for a lot of nonprofits in our state, and we don't want to be an example of that. We would like to have succession planning because people leave. I don't like, if you're anything like me, you've been in this work for a little bit, and people like to say, oh, you have to have a plan written down in case somebody gets hit by a bus. Why does it have to be morbid? It doesn't. maybe someone leaves the state or leaves the sector, or they just can't commit to the work anymore. And in that instance, we would love to have some succession so that we don't have to figure out all of these nuances that come along with replacing a co-chair. Along with that, we have 5 to 8 leadership team members who support network planning and engagement. Those leadership team members are the ones with their ears to the ground. They are the voices that are helping to shape what programming looks like, what virtual activities we'll have, what symposiums will look like. These are the folks who really help to move the needle and make sure that our peer networks are the successes that they are. And finally, a staff liaison to support your needs. When I was practicing my presentation, I was going to sing that line because it sounds like so many different facets of this, and it gave a partridge in a pear tree, but I'll spare you guys my raspy voice and my singing. But each network has a staff liaison who's going to support your needs. If you need anything from the Together SC team, then you would go primarily to that liaison. And we're here to support you. So for Advocacy Allies, GP Nuclear is our captain. I serve as the staff liaison for the Black Nonprofit Leaders Group. Karen serves as the staff liaison for the CEO ED Network, as well as the Consultant Collaborative. Maggie serves as our liaison for development, Brooke for marketing, Ben for operations, and our newest hire, Heidi, who will serve as the staff liaison for our Volunteer Admin Alliance. So again, we're here to support you and to make sure that your programmatic dreams can come to fruition. So let's talk about our ideal candidates. Our ideal candidates will have a passion for peer-to-peer support. They know the importance of weaving folks together and to exterminate the siloed ways of thinking and this super competitive nature. They're already engaging in our networks. They are coming to virtual events. They're coming to our in-person events and our symposiums. They may have attended a summit or two. They are on the listserv and they're asking questions and providing resources and information. These are the folks who are truly engaged and believe in the mission already. They've kind of already drank the sauce. But they like planning and discussion and problem solving. They bring great innovative ideas to our tables, and they are not afraid to be the squeaky wheel. I, for one, believe that committees and boards that are made of yes men and or women don't necessarily grow in the ways that they can because you have to be challenged. You have to have discussion. You have to have different viewpoints. And so we would love to have those factors represented on the leadership team. They don't mind meeting new people, not to necessarily say you have to be an extrovert. I think the term is ambivert. I'm a little bit of an ambivert. I'm an extrovert by vocation, but I do enjoy my solace. And as such, I don't mind meeting new people. I love to meet new people. And I think that having leadership teams of people who are brave enough to go and chat with the person who's sitting at the table by themselves eating lunch, or to answer questions in the hallways at the summit. Those folks are the ones who are the faces of our networks. They don't mind meeting new people and make the time and talent commitment to serve a full term. Ideally, a full term looks like 2 years because the first year, you're getting acclimated, you're getting your feet wet. And then by the time you hit 6 months in or even 12 months in, you know what you're here to do, you're comfortable in what you're here to do, and you can really make some true change happen for our networks. We do provide an option to renew for an additional term. We are looking for those who want to see the needle be moved. Peer networks are relatively new, with Black nonprofit leaders being the longest standing at 6 years, but we want new blood coming in and cycling out, but we also understand that You may have an amazing time serving, and we want to keep you. So if you do find yourself wanting to renew for that second term, we're just fine with that. But if not, we will do what I call the bless and release. Thank you for your service. The commitment is a commitment. This is honestly, it's like a board adjacent kind of role. Approximately 20 hours per year, and that number may fluctuate depending on your leadership team, the activities that you have, and the nature and culture of the network that you're serving. We ask that you actively participate with the network. We have routine leadership team meetings, some meeting 2 to 4 times a year, some meeting a little more frequently based upon the activities that they have going on. But attending these meetings is important. It's where you get your updates. It's where you bring your full self so that we can have all ideas at the table. And it's also a way for us to connect because it it's it's daunting when people are not all in. And so all in looks like helping to lift the heavy things. And that includes meetings. I know we don't all like meetings, but they're important for the planning of this work. Attending virtual and in-person events. We have a number of webinars that we have scheduled for the coming year. And these will differ from the Together SC at large webinars. Peer networks have individual programming calendars that are supportive of what it is that our members need. And so that might look like, Jenny Waller coming to do a session on CEO burnout, or that might look like the symposium. These events are important, and it's how we get people involved with our work. It's how people learn and grow, and it's how we can stretch and expand the capacity of these individuals who are serving our nonprofits on a day-to-day basis. And there is going to be work outside of meetings. If you are asked to help look up folks who are ideal for speakers on project management, that's some work that's going to happen outside of meetings. That's that research. That's that having engaging conversations with potential speakers and helping to really be a part of the picture at large. It's going to take a couple of tasks. You're going to have to send some emails and make some calls. But that is a part of what a leadership team member would have to do. Engage leaders on our listserv. Our listservs are a great place for folks to ask questions. It's a great place for folks to share resources. It's a great place to recap events that we have had. And we love to communicate as nonprofit folks. A lot of us are extroverts, but there are times where we don't necessarily have to do verbal communication. Sometimes we can share that in written form, and that's where our listserv comes in. And finally, our leadership teams are committed to answering questions and sharing resources to the network membership, whether it's a resource guide for PR contacts statewide, or if it's a recommendation for a new CPA. These are resources that folks are looking for, and we don't want to have to recreate the wheel, because the more time that we take in finding out our structures and our systems and doing all this discovery, that's time that could have been used actually doing the work. So we learn together, we grow together when we share our resources with each other. So you've heard about peer networks, you've heard about our leadership teams and what we're asking you to do. So let's talk a little bit about next steps and what you can expect from us. The leadership teams have received your contact information based upon which leadership team you have indicated that you're interested in serving on. So once the leadership teams have an opportunity to chat through some of the folks who are interested, they will reach out, and we hope to have maybe a quick conversation to get to know you so that we can make an informed decision of our own of what a fit would look like. Again, succession is super important, especially with nonprofits. And we want you to stay engaged with the networks and Together SC. If you, as you may have seen, we have places for 7 to 10 leadership team members. And we've got a lot of folks who are interested in serving in each leadership team bucket. So in the event that somebody leaves the sector or life happens and they aren't able to serve anymore, we want to create a pipeline so that we're not having to ask you guys to register your interest again in 6 months when we have to look for somebody new. So succession is important. Also, stay engaged with the networks and with Together SC as a whole. When we see you and we recognize you, we know that, hey, you really believe in our work and our mission, and you're putting in the time, talent, and treasure to be a part of something greater than yourself. So we'll keep our eyes on you. And finally, we've got some other engagement opportunities coming down the pipeline. We've got some amazing chances for you to be more involved with summit planning. We've got amazing opportunities for you to be involved with symposium plannings and with individual opportunities that are happening within each network. So if you aren't selected during this session, have no fear. Please stay engaged. We still need support. Many hands will make light work in this. And if you don't have the time to commit 20 additional hours a year to support Together SC and our mission, that's okay. There are some subcommittees and ad hoc groups that some of our peer networks have, and they may need that additional support from somebody who's not on the leadership team. So use your voice, use your mind, use your resources, and connect with us and stay engaged. This doesn't have to be a one-time thing. And if you're one of the folks who are either completing your final term or you're rolling off this year, please stay engaged, because our engagement with our members is a direct reflection of our engagement with our networks.